Victoria Monroe stood at the podium with bright lights on her face and a crystal trophy in her hands. She had just won Architect of the Year. The room of 300 people clapped and smiled. Camera flashes burst like fireworks. Then her husband, Marcus, walked up with a stiff face and a stack of papers. In a flat voice that cut through the applause, he said he wanted a divorce. He said it loud enough for the whole ballroom to hear. He wrapped his arm around Rachel Victoria's best friend, her maid of honor, her secret keeper, and announced he was leaving to marry her. Gasps rolled across the room. Rachel's rings sparkled. Marcus looked proud, like he had just won a prize. No one there knew what Victoria knew. 3 hours earlier, her late grandmother's attorney had called. Victoria had inherited $800 million and the controlling stake in Monroe Industries, the same company where Marcus was climbing the ladder. He believed the company belonged to distant relatives. He had spent years trying to impress it. He never realized his wife was the hidden heir. She had worked under her mother's maiden name, Ashford, to build her own firm and her own reputation without using the family name. While Marcus and Rachel had planned this public betrayal for 18 months, Victoria had been proving herself on her own. The papers shook in her hands. Marcus smirked and spoke to the crowd about how free he felt. He said she didn't support his dreams. He said her career mattered more to her than he did. Rachel stood beside him, smiling. Her diamond ring looked far more expensive than anything Marcus could buy on his salary. Victoria had a sudden, sharp thought. How did they pay for that ring? What else had they been paying for? Had they been using her money? The cruelty of the timing made her stomach drop. Why pick an award ceremony to end a marriage unless you wanted to break someone on purpose? Victoria looked down at the divorce papers, then up at the crowd. She walked back to the microphone with steady steps. "Thank you for this honor," she said, lifting the trophy. "This award represents 10 years of work on projects that help communities. I'm grateful to everyone who believed in my vision." She left the stage with her back straight and her head high, while the room buzzed and whispered behind her. In the restroom, she finally exhaled. Her phone was vibrating nonstop. She ignored everything except a message from Harrison Webb, her grandmother's attorney. Board meeting Monday, 9 a.m. Attendance required, majority shareholder, and new CEO. The word CEO felt heavy and right all at once. Her grandmother, Eleanor Monroe, had built a manufacturing empire from nothing. She had survived hostility and doubt and made something real. Victoria had always known there would be an inheritance one day, but Eleanor was only 73 and lively. The sudden heart attack 2 weeks earlier had been private. Victoria had asked for no public news until after the will. She never imagined that grieving her grandmother and being ambushed by her husband would crash together on the same day. It felt like fate or punishment, she couldn't tell which. Her mother texted, "I'm coming to get you. Don't talk to anyone." Victoria looked in the mirror and saw the woman who had started Ashford Architecture on purpose. She wanted doors to open because of skill, not family. Now, that family name would define everything ahead. She looked calm and professional, but inside she felt like she was standing at the edge of a cliff. Marcus had picked the worst possible moment to shame her. He had picked the wrong woman to underestimate. 12 years earlier, Victoria met Marcus at a campus coffee shop. Both were grad students. Both were broke. He talked about climbing in corporate life. She talked about buildings that could change neighborhoods. They ate cheap food, shared long nights, and believed their future would be bright. Rachel was Victoria's roommate back then. Warm, funny, loyal. The three were inseparable. There had been warning signs. 5 years into the marriage, Marcus pushed her to use the Monroe name on her firm. "Think of the doors it would open," he said. She explained again why she wanted to succeed on her own. His face didn't show understanding, only calculation. "That's privilege thinking," he said. "People with money can pretend they don't have it." He didn't know the full story. Yes, her grandmother was wealthy, but the family was fractured. Victoria's father died when she was 8. Her mother moved them to Seattle to escape the corporate storm. They lived comfortably, not lavishly. Victoria worked jobs, earned scholarships, and saw Eleanor quietly twice a year. Only in the last decade had mother and grandmother fully reconciled. Victoria kept her independence on purpose. Only her mother and Eleanor knew what would one day be hers. Rachel knew there was a wealthy grandmother, but seemed irritated by Victoria's boundaries. "Must be nice having a safety net," she'd say. When Victoria tried to explain, it wasn't like that. Rachel's eyes held something sharp, maybe envy. Over the last year, Rachel asked too many small questions about Marcus. Was he happy? Did he feel unfulfilled? Victoria shared her worries about his late nights and distance. Rachel nodded, said kind things, and went home to him. Victoria's mother arrived at the hotel with the energy of someone who always gets things done. Elizabeth was a lawyer who had built her career separate from the Monroe name, teaching her daughter that power meant nothing without character. She drove like the steering wheel was Marcus's throat. "Your grandmother would have ended him," she said. "She always said you learn who people are when they think they have power over you. Marcus just told us everything we needed to know." "Did you know about him and Rachel?" Victoria asked, staring at the city lights. "I suspected. Your grandmother knew for sure," Elizabeth said. "She hired investigators 3 months ago. She didn't tell you because she wanted proof before she broke your heart. The final report came the day before she died." The words stung. Not because Eleanor looked into it, but because Eleanor died carrying that knowledge to protect her. "What did they find?" Victoria asked, as they parked under Elizabeth's building. "Everything," her mother said. "The affair began 18 months ago. Rachel started it. She researched our family. She told Marcus about the inheritance. They set up joint accounts. They bought property in Rachel's name. They moved money from your accounts in small, careful withdrawals. About $200,000. Marcus is weak. Rachel is calculating. They plan to humiliate you into a fast settlement and grab half of everything, including what they thought you'd inherit. They didn't know Eleanor had already passed. They didn't know the will was being executed now. Victoria sat on the sofa, feeling hollow. The life she built was covered in cracks she hadn't seen. Her husband hadn't loved her. Her best friend had been a mask with a smile. Meanwhile, Marcus and Rachel clinked champagne in a secret hotel suite that Victoria's money helped pay for. Marcus bragged about the ceremony like it had been a clever prank. "Did you see her hands shake?" He laughed. 12 years of supporting her, and she never once used her name to help me. Rachel leaned in, pleased. "When the inheritance pays out," she said, "we'll be set. Community property means half. She'll pay just to be done with you." Marcus talked about pitching a big acquisition to the board on Monday. He imagined titles, executive vice president, maybe COO. "She thinks design is power," he said. "Real power is business." Rachel asked if anyone had contacted him about Eleanor's death. "Nothing official," he answered. They thought they had time. They had planned everything except the truth. Monday came with cold rain on the glass tower of Monroe Industries. Victoria flew to Chicago the night before, sat with Harrison, and read the documents. At 8:55, she sat at the head of the boardroom wearing her grandmother's pearls and her own calm. 12 executives took their seats. They knew her. They knew Eleanor's wishes. They knew what was about to happen. At 9:15, Marcus entered carrying coffee and confidence. He didn't notice the quiet. He didn't notice the looks toward Victoria. He sat halfway down, opened his tablet, and smiled like a man with a plan. Harrison began. "Before regular business, we will address leadership. Your new CEO and majority shareholder, Victoria Monroe Ashford." Heads turned. Marcus looked up slowly. He saw his wife at the head of the table and heard the words. Confusion hit, then denial, then fear. The coffee slipped from his hand and spread across the polished wood. No one moved. "This is a joke," he said hoarsely. "Victoria, what are you doing?" "I'm here because I own this company." she answered calmly. I inherited it from my grandmother, Eleanor Monroe, the woman whose memorial you skipped to celebrate our divorce. The empire you've tried to impress is my family's work, and now it's my responsibility. Harrison handed thick folders around the table. Inside were records from Eleanor's investigators, bank transfers, emails, texts between Marcus and Rachel planning the public divorce, notes from Rachel's research into the Monroe wealth, and a clear timeline of 2 people stealing from Victoria for 18 months. You're fired, Marcus, Victoria said. Security will escort you out. You'll hear from our lawyers about the theft. As for the divorce you served me, it's been reviewed. You're entitled to nothing. Your fraud voids any claims. You leave with what you brought: ambition and betrayal. 2 security guards entered. The board watched, some grim, some relieved. Marcus tried a last speech. We were married 12 years, he said. I made mistakes. Rachel manipulated me. Don't, Victoria said. You made choices. You stole $200,000 in careful pieces. You used my award night to force a quick settlement. Own it. He threatened press and lawsuits. Harrison quietly reminded him of the NDAs he had signed and the violations that would bring more trouble. Marcus asked about Rachel. Harrison said her consulting contract had been terminated that morning for misconduct and that licensing boards would be notified about her conflict of interest with a company employee. Security guided Marcus out. Victoria finished the meeting. The room returned to strategy, operations, and expansion, the real work Eleanor had trained her to do. Victoria realized those childhood factory tours and dinner conversations had been lessons. Her grandmother had always been preparing her. The story hit the media within hours. Marcus tried to leak a poor me version. Harrison's team moved faster. Headlines framed it as justice. The wife, humiliated at an award show, becomes the CEO and removes the schemer who betrayed her. Messages flooded Victoria's phone. She ignored almost all of them. Her mother arrived at the hotel with warm food and cooler wisdom. Marcus made a mistake today, she said. He ran to Rachel. Harrison called to explain. Rachel had recorded nearly everything insurance in case Marcus turned on her. She offered immunity in exchange for full cooperation. Emails, audio files, bank details, timelines. It makes the case against him ironclad, Harrison said. Your call. Prosecute both, or accept her help and aim the criminal charges at Marcus. Victoria thought about justice and about who she wanted to be. Rachel will lose her license and her career either way, she said. Let her cooperate. She can face civil consequences and repay what she took. Marcus gets the weight of the law. 3 days later, something unexpected happened. Marcus asked to meet. He walked into a small conference room at Monroe Industries with no lawyer and no swagger. He looked smaller, older, tired. Harrison sat in the corner as a witness. Marcus stood with both hands on the chair back and spoke without drama. I'm not here to apologize, he said. It wouldn't be enough. I'm here to accept responsibility and tell the truth. Rachel didn't chase me. I chased her. I asked her to look into your family because I resented you. I felt entitled to what you had. The affair wasn't about love. It was about punishing you for being better than me. The words hit hard and clean. Victoria didn't flinch. I couldn't handle your success, he continued. Every award you won reminded me I was average. I wanted a partner who would make me look bigger, not someone who made me face my smallness. Rachel told me what I wanted to hear. I believed her because it let me blame you. End quote. Harrison shifted but stayed quiet. Marcus kept going. I'm going to plead guilty. I'll sign over what's left, including the accounts Rachel and I opened with your money. I'll make a public statement taking full responsibility and naming her as someone I manipulated. Then I'm leaving this city and this career. I built my life on envy. I don't want to be that man anymore. He paused, breathing like a runner who finally stopped running. You didn't just inherit money and a company, he said. You inherited the chance to build something that makes people better. I tried to break you on the one night you should have felt most proud. You still stood up there and said thank you. You still walked away with grace. I don't deserve forgiveness, and I'm not asking for it. I'm only asking that the truth be clear. This was my doing." Victoria listened. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she gave a simple nod. "Tell the truth in writing," she said. "Cooperate with the prosecutors. Repay what you stole. After that, I don't want contact. Not for business, not for closure. I'm done living small for anyone." Marcus nodded. "Understood." He left quietly. The loudest thing about him finally gone. When the door closed, Harrison looked at Victoria. "Are you okay?" Victoria looked out at the rain-washed skyline, the factories, the offices, the neighborhoods she wanted to lift with good work and decent jobs. She thought of Eleanor's lessons, her mother's spine, and her own long years of building without shortcuts. "I'm not just okay," she said. "I'm ready." That week, she met with plant managers and engineers, asked questions, and listened twice as much as she spoke. She called city leaders about a vocational program to train young builders. She visited a factory floor and thanked workers by name. She reviewed community projects her architecture firm could partner on with Monroe Industries. She set the tone. Integrity first. Growth with purpose. Power used to protect, not punish. At night, she let herself feel everything, the loss of a friendship that was never real, the end of a marriage that had become a cage, the ache of missing her grandmother, the strange lightness of standing fully as herself. She wore the pearls again, not as armor this time, but as a promise. She would not hide, she would not shrink, she would lead. And when press asked how she wanted to be seen as a secret heir, a scorned wife, a ruthless CEO, she said the same thing every time in that steady voice from the stage. "I'm a builder. I build homes and bridges, teams and companies, trust and second chances. That is who I've always been. Now I get to do it in the open." The award night would be remembered for the public divorce. Victoria decided the years after would be remembered for something bigger. A woman who chose strength without cruelty, truth without spectacle, and a future that answered betrayal with purpose. She didn't just survive. She rose, and she built.